Hey, howdy. At last we get to see the fruits of my labors. Don't mind the -17 win streak. I tried to record this earlier and then realized I was doing a crap job at explaining. So this is attempt number 2. Either way, welcome to the RPG Brainrot Mega Pack. This is a project that I started back in June or July or so. After playing a whole lot of these indie RPGs, I grew pretty fond of them, and I've been a fan of Isaac since Rebirth. So I figured, hey, why not combine one hobby with another? So, the result is this. Now, this isn't everything. This is just the items. The clashing between the two versions of PSI Magnet is hilarious to me. Look at it go. Either way, this is a sort of just like a taste of what's to come. A representation from every game on here. As well as adding the new characters, I also added a few items. Now, let me go ahead, open up the rules so I can clear myself a path. To these two in particular are probably my favorites. The Amori items. The Stranger, and something. Yeah, I know it's a cop-out to use something as the Amori item, but it looks awesome. And the Stranger will summon little dudes. But items aside, let's talk about the other qualities. Namely, I've completely torn out the music and replaced it with music from various indie RPGs. Almost. I have still yet to do Dogma and the Beast, and for the time being, they're replaced by I don't actually remember what. But my eventual goal is to completely retexture Dogma and the Beast to be something else. And when that's done, I'll add it to the mod, but for the time being, those two are unfinished. But everything else has new music. As for the characters, I'm just gonna say I think there's 21 characters total. If you count Black Judas, if you count Jacob and Esau separate, Lazarus 1, Lazarus 2 separate, and Forgotten and Soul separate. I think it's either 21 or 22. But I say we go through all of them. I have to wonder if this will get content ID'd, because this music is video game music. It's from Space Funeral, but it's actually from a band called Dorada de Nudes. Either way, first one of course is Frisk, and Frisk is just Isaac. Not much to really say, but I have some. Cleared the room actually, so I have space to think. I have a few things bound. One makes a trapdoor, one kills me, and one spawns tarot cards. I'm just gonna go ahead and explain this now, because I did a crap job of explaining it last time. But every single one of the tarot cards have actually been retextured to be something else. Now, I say retextured, they're exactly the same. So Justice still does what Justice does, Tower still does Tower things, Judgment still does Judgment things, etc. They just have different names and different sprites. This one is Strength, I think? Permanent, okay. It's a bit disorienting at first, but I think I did a good job at assigning them. And all of the cards are based on Yumaniki effects, as well as effects from the fan project Yumatuki. Now, what I'm going to do from here is go down to the next floor, look at the Nightmare sprite, and then kill the character. A little bed of golden flowers. And I die, and I become Kara. Moving on to Wayne. Wayne is from the game Hilux. Now, Hilux is a very unique style, which explains the very unique style of my character. Hilux has a sort of... It's like a photo scans of claymation, I think is the best way to describe it. Hang on, let me mute the music just so I don't distract myself. I'll go through and listen to a lot of the music at a later point. But yeah, he's got a very weird claymation-y style, and it looks awesome. And this is my attempt to recreate it. It's not perfect, but I think it looks damn good. And I should probably address this now. You might notice, like, the cracked orb seems to work pretty well, but let me go ahead and give myself Roid Rage. And you'll immediately see that there's a problem. Let me address the elephant in the room. Costumes are not very high on my priority list because it would be an absolute nightmare to make them all work with every single character. I was getting burnt out just doing one sprite sheet for each of these characters. I would have to do sprites for every single item that has a costume for each character. And not really, maybe more like half of them, like all the ones that change the face. It would be a ton of work. As much as I want to, it's not feasible. So this is going to inevitably be a problem. There's not much I can really do about it. It works in Binding of Isaac because all the characters are either Isaac wearing a wig or very close to Isaac. So it works out pretty well, but not here. So that disclaimer out of the way. And I die, and he becomes Bones. Another fun thing from Hilux. When you die, you literally die and go to the afterlife, and you have to process the meat that you got while you were there in order to become stronger, and then ascend and re-enter the regular life. Either way, next up we got Brad from Lisa. Now, a striking feature of this character you might notice is that he's missing an arm. This has no gameplay effect, and sometimes the arm swaps. There's not much you can really do about that because of the way the walk cycle works. But I still think it looks cool. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters to me. But the flower is just a replacement for Luckfoot, and the little diary entry is a replacement for the paperclip. And if I move on to the next floor, he's got a bit of a different nightmare sprite. Instead of lying on the ground and crying, he's clutching his stump of an arm and crying. And when he dies, he becomes that mound of despair. Anyone who's played the game before knows what that is, but to those who haven't, I recommend you play Lisa the Painful so you can suffer with the rest of us. Moving on to Red. Now, Red was a bit tricky, or he was very tricky, because Everhood is a very unique style that I can't really put into words. It's got a very, like, down-to-earth in its designs, but it's also very psychedelic, and the two ideals kind of clash and form this very cool art style. Now, obviously, that is hard to replicate. This is my attempt at a replication. It's not perfect, but I feel like it's pretty good. I think the Nightmare sprite looks awesome. And when he dies, the light literally leaves his eyes because he is just a wooden doll. But while I'm here, let me go ahead and give myself Judas' Shadow. Because Black Judas does indeed exist. You might wonder what I did with him. Now, If I die... Surprise! There was a weird little... There was a funny little guy inside of the doll. I'm not going to explain exactly what or who this character is, because it is spoilers for the game Everhood. So if you want to figure out that answer, play Everhood. At the end of the day, this is a propaganda campaign to get people to play more indie RPGs. So I may as well stick to that. But I head down to the next floor. This is a very troubled character. I'll say that much. He's got very fun facial expressions. Moving on from there, we move on to Philip. Now, Philip is from a game called Space Funeral by the Catamites. It was designed as a very meta, sort of poking fun at the RPG Maker community at the time, and their general opinions towards a lot of things. That looks... Let me just reset just so I can see my character in all his weird glory. You might notice the character looks... The color palette kind of sucks in a very loving way. Excuse me. It's like hard magenta, the most yellow, and cyan. And like it's like printer magenta, printer yellow, printer cyan. And that's intentional. Because that's the color palette that he uses in Space Funeral. Now I toned it down a little bit in the Nightmare sprite because it kind of looked awful when it was just the basic 3 colors. But I can reclaim a little bit of the jank by the death sprite. He kind of just falls on his back. I think it's really funny. Moving on, we have the CEO from Suits. This is a game that I'm willing to bet most people have not heard of this one. This game actually had a prequel called Suits a Business RPG, and I don't remember if Nitro Rad has covered Absolute Power, but he has covered Suits a Business RPG ages ago. But it's a very grim and satirical take on the sort of art style that Off has. And the basis of it is economic and political corruption given physical form. It's an RPG, but you literally have a corruption meter. And as you get more and more corrupted, I believe it'll eventually impact the story progression. If you become too corrupted by money and the rush you get from beating people up, I guess. And those little tentacles are supposed to be indicative of that. Moving on to Aya. Aya is from a game by the developer Sen called Mad Father. Same person that did Miso, actually. Now you might notice Aya's art style is radically different. For these first few, I tried my best to do that kind of stuff. I got a little bit lazy, unfortunately. Particularly with Sunny and Amori, I didn't try to do the sketchbook sort of style. Because in pixel art, that kind of looks like trash. If I had a higher resolution, I would have absolutely done this cool sketchbook style that Amori has, but I just don't have a way to make it both look like Isaac and look like Amori, which is unfortunate. But either way, if I go down to the next floor, the hair is it's weird. The hair is weirdly smooth gradients to it. And that was 100% intentional. And when Aya dies, she becomes a doll. Just like her father wanted, I suppose. Ugh. That is a creepy game. I do recommend it, though. Moving on, we got Susie, of course. Oh, right, the souls. All the souls have new descriptions. And as well as that, you might notice that the tarot card for the Fool is an eye palm. It acts like one, too. That is the only sound that I changed, but it was too perfect for me to not swap it out. Oh, right. Next floor and then die. That sounds so messed up. It's like Final Destination. All of these characters are fated to show off the things that they do that are cool, go down to the next floor, and then immediately die. Next up we have Lazarus, Matsuki. This is another cool one. I didn't say that. I didn't register that it was Freezer Baby at first. That pun kind of fell on deaf ears for me. But the thing about Lazarus is that Lazarus resurrects. Now, I was tempted to just make the resurrection Matsuki again, but I figured, hey, may as well go the extra mile. So, when Matsuki dies, she becomes a Torningen. Now, you might wonder what the heck this thing is. This is a character that appears in Yumeniki as an enemy of sorts. There aren't really enemies in this game, but there are like approximations. They kind of like chase you down if they see you. And it's a representation of social anxiety. Now, when they die, of course, you're dead for good. Moving on from there, we got Nico from One Shot. Nico looks adorable. Nico is also the most likely character to have his sprite completely destroyed by some costume overwriting his face. But there's not much I can really do about that. I go down to the next floor, and the nightmare sprite is Nico in bed. Now, I will say as well, all of Eden's hair is identical, because I just took his hat and then copy-pasted it 36 times and renamed all of them, so that no matter what gets picked, it's always going to be his funny little hat. Next up, we got Miso. Now, Miso is very simple. It's the Lost. I would put in a representation of the agony Miso endured, but not only is that spoilers, it's also extremely effed up, even by my standards. So, if you want to know what happened to Miso that led to her being in this state, I would recommend playing the game. It's relatively cheap as well, if I remember correctly. Because it is very old. It might also have a free version if you look it up, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. It is an old RPG Maker game, so it might have a free version that's just the initial release. But the trouble is, because it's the Lost, when she dies, nothing special happens because she just uses the ghost sprite. And if I were to rewrite that ghost sprite, it would rewrite all of the sprites. Moving on to the batter. Of course, from Off by Mortis Ghost, that is a planetarium right next to Spawn. Hello there. The batter doesn't look immaculate, but like I'm happy with what I did with them. Oh wait, music. This is music from Himatuki. I cheated a little bit, because Himatuki isn't really represented here. It's a fan project of Yumeniki, but the music is amazing, so I can and will grab music from there to use. Either way, go down to the next floor. Look at him. He's completely nonplussed about the whole situation. He's just waiting so that he can purify the world so he can stop existing. When he dies, he becomes that weird beaked monster. That is the form that he appears to for things that are not the player. It's really cool, but you only hear mention of it once or twice. Moving on to Pokey, which, fun fact, he's actually supposed to be called Porky, and that was just a mistranslation. So if I wanted to be really accurate, I could just name both versions Pokey, but I'm planning on the tainted version of this is going to be Porky from Mother 3, so I may as well just call this Pokey and call that one Porky. Either way, it's just Keeper. Nothing really special, just a retextured wooden nickel a little bit. And that Nightmare sprite is his little funny little spider bot when he's aiding Gygus at the end of Earthbound. And when he dies, he gets that same he gets the color palette that he got at that point in the game as well. Sorry if I'm flying through this, by the way. I have class in a few minutes, and I was hoping that take that I did last time would be good enough, but it was not. So I'm having to do this on a tiny bit of a rush. No worries, though. This is Apollyon. And Void is not my favorite item of all time. But PSI Magnet, I think, is a fitting replacement. It also does exactly the same thing as Void. But I go down to the next floor. Ness gets in his PJs. And when Ness dies, he also gets in his PJs. After Ness is Nowak. Probably my favorite out of these characters. It's close. I really like what I did with Wayne, but this one is just... Oh, it's so good. I'm so proud of myself for this one. It's no coincidence as well that out of these, Brutal Orchestra is also one of my favorites. Seriously, like, I know that Alexa recently started doing a playthrough of this game. Play it. It's so good. It's really, really good. It's really, really good. Very cool and grim. And very funny. But I go down to the next floor. I won't spoil what this is, or why I have this here, but the sprite work is really cool, in my opinion. Only got 3 characters left. Ib is next. Now, Ib, I hate how cute I made her, because now I genuinely feel bad. I felt really bad when I was testing this character, because she's adorable, and every time something bad happens to her via a costume, I feel terrible. But the Book of Virtues was replaced by this museum brochure. And if I go down to the next floor, it's about what you'd expect. And if I die, I become that. Finally, we have Jacob and Esau. Sunny and Basil, of course. I recently replayed Amori, so I have a bit extra... Uh-oh. Easy there, Esau. I have a bit extra enjoyment of this than I usually do. But either way, they work just like Jacob and Esau. They die just as fast too, because they're Jacob and Esau. But moving on to the next floor... they have their little nightmare sprite, and when they get up, it's quite cool. Sunny gets his hospital outfit from at the very end of the game, and Basil becomes a stranger. I like how it says I died to Wrath. But there we go. That's every single character covered. I don't know what else there is to cover. I said I was going to do the music. I think I'll hold off because class is quite soon. I'm sorry about that. I should have budgeted my time better. Oh well. Either way, the plan from here, I think, is to move on to the Tainted Characters. And I think I have some other stuff planned, but I'll reveal that in the near future. For the time being, though, I had a lot of fun on this. And I look forward to whatever fresh hell I'll expose myself to when I have to work on the Tainted Characters. I am not looking forward to Tainted Lilith in the slightest, because the spreadsheet for Tainted Lilith is insanely intricate. Big shoutouts to Nacho Sagittarius for making sprites. That's it. It's a lot of work. But that's all I got. This was a ton of fun. It was also a ton of work, and I'm glad to see it basically completed. Thanks so much for watching.